Hello, I'm Dave Canole. This is A Will Thing TV. We're checking out the Lexus LC 500. It's a big two-door coupe. It's heavy, it's quick, but is it worth the money? This is the 2019 Lexus LC 500. It's long, it's elegant, it's got swoopy lines. It looks absolutely superb in this subdued pearlescent white paint that it has. Those big wheels, the big tyres, plenty of grip. The angles of the lines that mimic each other up, and front and rear with these L shapes in the rear lights. It's beautifully tailored exhausts out there. The swoopy looking roof with the carbon fibre insert. Big rubber on there from Michelin. And up front, of course, the distinctive Lexus spindle grille. And as you can see how it just echoes each sort of angle of the car to really draw the eye to it. Underneath the lightweight but helicopter landing pad size bonnet, we have this 5-litre engine producing 351 kilowatts at 7100 RPM, 530 Newton meters. That comes in at 4,800 RPM and runs out at around 5500 RPM. So it's a fairly high revving engine, but it is an absolute delight to listen to. Although it's a big long car, it's either very poorly packaged or it's definitely leading towards being a Grand Tourer, purely and simply because when you flip these seats forward, you see just how little legroom there is in the back. And as you see, the seats themselves actually do move forward. We flip them back and the seat moves back as well. And just have a look at how much room is left over. You're better off putting a little bit of shopping or something like that in there. But otherwise, it's definitely a cabin for two people, even with the Jesus handles over there for a passenger taken out on a good long country run, or perhaps if you're going to do a track day or something along those lines as well. Lexus has done a fantastic job in regards to the gear selector as well. Simple. Move it across to the right. Forward for reverse. Back for drive. That's as complicated as it gets. Complicated as it needs to be. What you also get is the alternative to the mouse pad that Lexus likes to use. You get the trackpad instead, and it's not quite as fiddly as it could be, and it's also never as accurate as it could be either. So you're still left with this sort of indecision about where you want things to go, of course with the old analog clock as well. But you still do get the typical Lexus look of, if we go over to here, we've got our music, our trip information. As you can see, we've been out on a nice highway run, 11.4 litres, 100. That's not too bad actually, considering. And of course all your seat settings as well, all backed up to a point by what we've got here. And these are beautiful, simply beautiful. In fact, they're just up and down. Downside, it's a chrome look. Get the sun at the wrong angle, you want to be wearing sunglasses. Up here we've got our sports mode, and instead of having it down on the center console, which probably at times would be a little bit easier because otherwise you've got to reach forward, it'll just be a simple matter of twirling that dial. And as you can see, we've got our sports plus, back to our comfort, our eco modes, and we go back to sport all the way through. Just something a little bit more visually appealing. The LC 500 lacks the sharpness, the hard edge, the rawness of what the GSF in the 10th anniversary edition delivered. It just doesn't react quite as quickly when you put the pedal down. The steering isn't quite as responsive. Even the brakes don't have that same instant feel. You brush them in the GSF and you can feel it on the pads, whereas this is just that almost typical sort of feel where you touch it and you've got to press a little bit harder for any retardation. Acceleration when you move it into sports mode, well, it's pretty good considering that it is a nearly 2-ton car, but overall it just probably needs to lose maybe 200 kilos or so, and it might just come back a little bit closer to what the GSF can deliver. Our full colour LCD screen, we're currently in sports mode for our driving here, as you can see, and it looks pretty damn good, to be quite frank. Also has the sliding dial, so you get your little bit of different information in there. We can flick it through in regards to our little button just on the left hand side of the steering wheel. And again, all very simple, very nice to use, looks absolutely fantastic in that respect as well. And it does make a whole lot of sense when it comes to wanting to drive the car like it's something a little bit more special. If there's one thing that's really apparent about the LC500 is that it's absolutely a Grand Tourer. It's a GT car. It's one that loves to stretch its legs, just ambles along well under 2,000 RPM using the 10-speed automatic gearbox. It's not entirely unhappy around town, but when taken into the areas of Sydney where there's shorter streets, tighter corners, and it just really didn't feel like it was entirely happy with where it wanted to be. So as a result, if it's taken out on the highway and on the country roads, it's definitely that kind of car. If there's one thing that defines the LC500, it's that it's definitely not a city car. It's not happy in the tighter corners and tighter roads or slower speed limits. It needs to stretch its legs. It needs to use the 10-speed automatic, and as such it becomes a fantastic Grand Tourer. 10th or 9th or 8th gear, it's below 2,000 RPM, just ambles along. There's quite burble from the exhaust, and you can just feel that it's much more happier and much more composed on the road. But in suburbia, it's just really not its thing, and also in certain areas, because of the size of the car, it just wouldn't suit either. So definitely, if you're going to have one of these, it's a Grand Tourer. Take it out for the big long weekend drive, go to the vineyards or the cheese yards or whatever the case might be, and throw the suitcase in the tiny little boot that it's got. That's where it's happy.
Here we go. There are
For a car that's priced at 155,000 plus on roads, it's a big car, it's a lot of car, but there's not a lot of room, and therein lies the rub. It might be a good looking car, it might have some pretty decent performance, but it really is only a Grand Tourer, suitable for 2 people and a suitcase. But if that's your car, then this is your car. For A World Thing TV, I'm Dave Canole.